Welcome. This will be a video of a course format introduction for our Maricopa Open Educational Resource or MORE Learning System math course. So once you have identified your username and password, or you register as a new student and go through those steps, it will email you a link that you will then have to verify. You have your username and password, you'll go ahead and log in. This is the main home page where on the left you'll see all the courses listed that you are enrolled in, or if your instructor has you self-enroll, that is where you will enroll in a new class. And they'll have to give you the course ID and the key for the course. Up here though on my home page, there's a couple things I want to point out just to make sure that we get these new messages and things like that on this home page. Up in the right hand column up here at the top, change user info. This is my student name. I can change my password from here if I want, my email address, but there's a couple things I think you should check or make sure are checked for you. Notify me by email when I receive a new message. I think that's important so you can stay on top of the course. Whenever your instructor messages you, you'll get an email. And then down here, show on this home page, I like to see any new messages or new message notes or new post notes on the course list. So on this widget in the course list. And then at the bottom, click Update Info, and then you're back to this home page. And I'm sure you have probably now a new box here, which might say New Messages like this one does here. So then when I'm ready and I'm enrolled in my course, I'll go ahead and click into the class. And what I'll notice here, and I'll collapse this just for now so I can show you overall what it looks like. I have an announcements block, a syllabus calendar of due dates, textbook and additional resources block, start here day 1 assignments, and then is where I start getting into my content of the course or each module for the course. Module 1 and Module 2 are shown here for you now. So announcements will usually be open for you, or you can open that yourself. Tells you basically what's going to be due each week, and each day sort of what you should be working on, as well as any important information. So for example, here is some textbook options where you can download the entire textbook as a PDF file for free, or here is where you can purchase, if you choose, a hard copy of the textbook. So that's the announcements. I recommend you read through these regularly throughout the week so you can make sure that you are staying on top of your class. Syllabus, calendar of due dates, textbook, and additional resources is here. That is obviously where you'll find your syllabus for the course, and then we have an all-important calendar of due dates, which I'll show you in this course is actually in 2 places. So it's actually also as an image down here for you to view right on your home screen. So you always have access to that. But I recommend you save those maybe to your computer or to your files or print them out so you always have them with you. Start here, day 1 assignments. You already found this because you're watching the course format video already. You do have to go in and do other things. Typically these are the like housekeeping type of things that we have to do. So a syllabus and calendar of due dates confirmation that you have received the syllabus and calendar of due dates, a syllabus quiz which goes over some of the highlights of the syllabus. These are just typical in a start here type module. And that's usually due within the first couple days of the class. So watch out for those. And now we're going to get into some of the content of the course. So if I click into Module 1, one thing that I think gets often overlooked in these courses, and then as soon as students find them, they realize how valuable they can truly be, is because this course is online, we don't have the face-to-face interaction or the notes that we might have in the face-to-face course. So what we have done is we have uploaded a blank copy of our Module 1 notes and then the entire Module 1 notes key. And here's what that looks like. So we have gone through and completed all of the problems for you, and in some cases given small directions or guidance in this case, right, like this, of why the answers are what they are. Or we have highlighted certain things so you can kind of match things together. So I think once people really reference that, they find those notes to be very helpful, possibly more helpful than a textbook as well. And those are in yellow at the top of your module, so see if your instructor has those. And then here's a typical section. So we're going to look at the first one. 1A, you'll notice that there was 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, and then we'll get to the review and the test here in a little while. Typically, there is a required reading or required readings, and whether it's from one textbook or in this case from multiple sources. These are all open source, either things that your instructor has created or textbooks that they're going to link to. And then you'll see a video lesson assignment. I'll go ahead and open that up. And here's what a typical assignment is going to look like. This is one of the ways that you will learn the content. So you've already read through everything. Now you're going to see some mini lessons, right? For example, this one is on domain and range of a function, and you will watch the video. In this case, this one is 13 minutes and 23 seconds long. And then you'll click, I have completed this section of the mini lesson and I'm ready to continue. Submit question. Score on the last try, 1 of 1 points. I could try a similar question, but not on this one. This is just the same video. If I have a question about it, underneath the question, I can always message my instructor as well. But I go through and say, okay, I'm going to watch this video now. This video will also be fairly short. These are mini lessons. I have completed this section. I'm ready to continue. And I go through the lesson that way. Okay. So then I will go back to my main page. I'm going to collapse my announcements. So I've read the readings. I've done my video lesson. Now I'm ready to practice. And hopefully, after you've read the readings and taken notes in your notebook, and you've watched the video lessons and taken notes in your notebook, now you're ready to do the assignment. The assignment is not necessarily meant to be done purely online. How it's meant to be done is still on paper and pencil. You're just entering your answers online. So I still recommend having your notebook available and ready as you're doing your homework or assignments. And so I will just do one part of this first one to show you what happens here. When I click in domain, and one more thing before I start, sometimes this new print version here where you're seeing all the questions at once, if it's very large, it may take a few seconds to kind of open up. So I would just say exhibit a little bit of patience as you're scrolling through. If you see things still populating, or if you see an apostrophe in front of something, that's just signifying math type is coming, so it will look different in a minute and once it uploads. But you can see here everything looks nice and is uploaded. So okay, I will click in the box and this calc pad kind of opens up right away, and I can enter interval notation myself, or I can also click interval, right, and say that I want to do it this way, and it puts it in there for me, the beginning and the end, or I could have used my keyboard as well. But I'm just going to answer one of these, and I'm going to hit enter when I'm done. It submits it. So what you can see now, I have 0.5 of 1 points, right, because I've answered half of the question. I got the green check next to it, which means it's correct. And if you look up at the top right, my recorded score for that is 1/2 out of 1 point. I have 2 to 3 tries remaining depending on the part, right? And if I look at the details of each question, I can kind of see why. Well, because I've already gotten this one right, so that was one of my tries. Now, if I say the range is something like, and I'll do it wrong, I'll just say negative, and I can type in infinity, by doing the 2 zeros, O's, See, it changes it to infinity, and that's how you know you've done it correctly. And then I can do two O's, not zeros, O's next to each other, or you had it down here in your interval notation, whatever you thought was easier. You can use your keyboard. It's not, so I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm going to hit enter. I still have 0.5 out of 1 point, and now you can see the red X that it is wrong. And so then I would need to go in and correct this and just redo it. So I would highlight that, delete it, or backspace, and I'm going to say the range is actually, and I'm going to use my keyboard for this one. I'm looking at y values, so -5 to 4, and I want to put a bracket on the 4, so I'm going to go 4 bracket. And now that is correct. Okay. Now, let's say that I go to the next one and I think the domain is 1, and that's 1 try, so I can see 2 to 3 tries depending on the parts. Nope, I think the domain is 2. That's wrong. Okay, nope, I think the domain is 3. Oh, that's wrong. So now I can actually view the key for this problem, because for this part, I can't answer this anymore, right? So it's not going to keep grading it. But what I can do, I can retry this question below. So now I can click try a similar question. It's going to regenerate, in this case, a new graph or a new question for me, and now I have all 3 tries remaining on this whole question. So that's how I would regenerate so that I can theoretically get 100% on all of my homework assignments. Also underneath, some of them have links to videos or readings that you might find helpful. Now, going back to the main page, if we get out of that assignment, I can go ahead and look at my gradebook, either by the top or on the left-hand side. I can see my gradebook. IP, meaning in progress, that was that assignment 1A that I just talked about. Here is one area where I can use a late pass on that assignment. Anytime next to the assignment, you'll see use late pass if a late pass is available on that. It is not available on things typically like midterms and final exams. But I can view my grade, and I can also click into this and it takes me right back to the assignment as well. And so I can see what I've done on the assignment. Going back to the course gradebook, I can see the video lesson, right, assignment that I was doing. I was again in progress and so forth. And then I can see the breakdown at the bottom of just the online assignments, reviews, and tests, and then midterm and final is coming. Now let's talk about this review and the test. So if I go back to the home page here, in Module 1, I see here's all the individual sections. Then I see Module 1 review, followed by a grayed out Module 1 test. Notice I cannot click anything on here to access the test. Well, that's because there's a prerequisite score required. So we are requiring you to go into this Module 1 review, and you must obtain a score of 70% or higher on that review assignment to access the module test. So the test will not show up. I will not be able to click on it until I obtain a score of 70% or higher on that review. Now we're going to recommend that that review be worked on and completed by Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. But we do give you a little bit of wiggle room here. As you'll notice, the review is actually due Sunday at 6 p.m., but that's only a few hours before this module test is due. So be very, very careful about that, because that may not leave you really enough time to understand what you're doing correct or not correct on the review and reflect on that and learn from that, or get help from the tutors, or email your professor, watch the videos again, etc., before you go ahead and take that test. So this test will not open up until you get 70% or better on that review, which could mean if you're struggling with the content or with some of the concepts within that module, you may need to use a late pass on that review so that you can get the 70%. And if that's the case, you might also have to use the late pass on that Module 1 test. So That should hopefully help explain the Module 1 review. And then as soon as you obtain that score of 70% or higher on that review, then you will be able to click into that Module 1 test. And as you'll see on here, the Module 1 review and Module 1 test are here down at the end, and you can also use a late pass from here. Okay, now go back to the main course page. I'm going to collapse Module 1. Last thing I'll talk briefly about is this midterm. Online courses have a proctored midterm and or final exam. We have midterm review worksheets available, which students have said has been the largest indicator of their success on the midterm was this review worksheet. So I would highly recommend going through that, even though it's optional. And then since it is proctored here at Paradise Valley Community College, in our testing center, if you are taking it elsewhere, we do ask that you let us know so we can set it up for you. For example, ProctorU is a website where you can take your midterm or final exam online still, but you do have to pay them the fee for proctoring your exam. And then here's all the exam directions. Everything is spelled out for you, and how to prepare for the exam. And as we get closer, you can certainly ask any questions that you have once you read through that information. If you're taking it in our Q Building Math Testing Center at PVCC, you'll need to make sure you bring your photo ID and know your instructor's name, so that they can access your exam for you. Each module test after the review is timed. I'm not sure if I said that as you're going in there. You'll have 2 hours and 15 minutes, just like a face-to-face class would. And the final exam, same thing, even or midterm and final, when it's proctored, will also be timed in the testing center. We also recommend as you're going through each module test that you do not use any resources, so that way when you get to the midterm and final, you are prepared and it simulates how you've been taking the test throughout the course, so it doesn't sort of come as a shock to you. I hope you found this helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions as you move through the course.